Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and Castelia House. I don't know if you can hear me better. If you can, let me know. Frankly, I don't know if you can hear me at all. So let me know if how the sound is, if the volume is still down. Is it quite okay? So it sounds better than normal? Sounds about the same. Okay. Anyhow, oh yeah, there's a fan in the background. I should turn that off. There we go. Slightly louder. Okay. So as you can see, thanks to the Dread Ilk, I have these new iPod things. And so, theoretically, the Dread Ilk picked them up for me, and with the idea that that would improve the performance. I have to admit, it's a little bit disconcerting just because now, it's my ears are kind of plugged, so I sound different to myself. But no big deal. I'm sure we can adjust. And if it's louder, then so much the better. So thank you, Dread Ilk. I'm sure you're vastly amused by the fact that I'm using these. But, say levy. Anyhow, what I wanted to talk about tonight is something that's related to a subject that I've addressed a few times on the blog. And it's about the SJW takeover of tech. It's about the convergence of tech and the way that it's been applied to the open source software community. What I thought was interesting was that for the second time in 3 years, there's been a pretty serious attempt to converge Node.js. And what's interesting about these convergence efforts is that they are all being focused on primarily on getting rid of the people who stand in the way of the codes of conduct and the committees and all that sort of thing. And what's really revealing about the situation there at Node.js is that the SJWs came out and admitted that the guy they were targeting hadn't really violated the code of conduct. But they just said, well, it doesn't matter. And this is what I've been trying to tell people from the beginning, is that the codes of conduct exist only as a way of allowing them to have an excuse to jettison people. But they're not even, if they can jettison somebody some other way, they're perfectly happy to do it. And if the code of conduct doesn't apply, they're perfectly happy to try to use it. And so, what you have to understand is that you cannot permit these people to enter into your organizations. You cannot permit them to volunteer. You absolutely cannot permit them to continue to be members once they start playing their game about how inclusivity is so important and everything will be so much better and blah, blah, blah. It's the same game they play every single time. And at least 8 times out of 10, any minority or female tech person is going to be a SJW infiltrator. Most of them are. And so what you need to do, they may lie to get in, but the minute that they do so, yes, it does include these stations. Here's what you need to understand about every single minority group. And it's just as true of the white majority as well. Everybody likes to be surrounded by people like them. All right? I see this all the time as an expat. What's the very first thing that an American expat tells his friends back in the States? Oh, it's great over here in Holland. You should totally move over here. I mean, I don't know what perverse element of the human mind operates this way, but for whatever reason, we have a tendency to try to bring in more people like us to these foreign environments. You know, I mean, I can kind of understand the concept when maybe you miss something. Like, for example, when we first moved to Europe, there were a lot of things that you couldn't get. Jif peanut butter, forget it. Taco Bell, no way. So I can kind of understand the concept a little bit, but you have to recognize this. No, I don't want Marmite. I mean, but you can get Marmite here now. The Australians have forced it on everybody. Oh, there's Nutella all over the place. Nutella is not a problem. But the issue is that what you can't people always want more people like them to be around them, and so anybody that you bring in is going to probably be at least a little bit biased towards bringing in more people like them. All right? And so what you need to be aware of and what you need to act on is the moment that they start pushing for that. I mean, I can tell you right now, what is the very first thing that a woman on the board of a Fortune 500 company does? What is the very first thing she says is the first priority of the company? The very first thing is, we need more women on the board. You'll see the same thing out of every other group. Okay, so what you have to understand, especially in technology, is diversity, inclusivity is the enemy. It is absolutely a weakness. It renders companies absolutely unable to even begin to fulfill their primary objective. Look at YouTube. YouTube is driving away creators by the dozens, by the scores, just because they don't approve of some aspect of what they're doing. What is the panacea? Don't let them in. And if you do let them in, kick them out. It's not difficult. You've got a perfect reason. All you need to do is establish, something that I called a code of merit. All you have to do. No, the competition is not eyeing YouTube hard. If there's something I find annoying, it's people who try to sound, all intelligent and analytical about business while they're babbling in utter ignorance. There's a reason why there's no competition for YouTube. It's because YouTube is very, very expensive, and it loses $1.5 billion a year. Okay? So all these little opportunities, like BitChute and VidMe and so forth, they're never going to be able to reach the kind of penetration that YouTube has, because nobody in their right mind is willing to lose that kind of money just to host videos. There's no way to monetize it to that level. And so, you know, and that is actually part of the problem. You know, Google is kind of doing what Microsoft did, and what the Washington Post is doing, and what the New York Times is doing. They are, they're uncompetitive, money-losing operations that allows them to keep other competitors from getting established. So, and that's where subscription models are so important. You know, when we launch Voxday here in a week or so, when we launch Alt Hero next month, you know, we are going to be dependent on people who value what we're doing and who are willing to contribute to it. If we can't find enough people to contribute to it, fine. It doesn't deserve to live. It doesn't deserve to be an ongoing operation. You know, we're not looking. I don't want somebody to come in and, you know, say, oh, here's a whole bunch of money, and we don't care if you lose money or not, because, you know, then you're providing a service that nobody actually wants. You're providing a service that nobody needs enough to pay for it. So, the Voxday subscriptions, I haven't actually set them up yet, but they're not very expensive. I think the minimum will probably be $5 a month, something like that. You know, it's basically going to be something similar to the Jordan Peterson model. What we're looking at doing is taking all the stuff that we're doing in nonfiction in Castelia and essentially turning them into a series of 20-minute videos so that we can reach 10 times more people than the books. You know, that's the idea. I mean, what you're seeing here is basically a dry run for that. You know, I didn't know if I could do video or not. I didn't know if I could handle this medium or not. It's not one that I'm comfortable with. It's not one that I'm particularly good at. But based on how I've been able to, you know, bring up, or, you know, have several thousand people show up while I babble at them on my iPad mini, I'm pretty sure that we're going to have a very good product with a good producer who's going to be putting in graphics and effects and charts and all that sort of thing. Would subscriber get access to the print books as well? Depends on the level. I mean, we're going to have some at the very high levels, we're going to have some really nice subscriber rewards, including leather-bound versions of certain books. But that's only that's almost irrelevant because there's only going to be very few people that would be at that level. So anyhow, you know, the whole, but the point is that there's a tremendous opportunity in the technology areas because of the SJW convergence. The convergence is removing the ability of these organizations from the universities to the tech companies to the churches, and all of them are becoming totally unable to fulfill their primary objective. You know, Apple is on the way. Google is on the way. We've already seen peak Twitter. We've seen peak Yahoo. We may have already seen peak. We've probably already seen peak YouTube. So, you know, as far as the churches goes, I mean, I was really appalled to hear that the mega church run by Joel Osteen was not opening itself up to the community. I mean, that is literally the opposite of Christian charity. Now, I've never paid much attention to Joel Osteen, but what little I've heard has not been positive. And when I hear something like that, I just roll my eyes, you know. it's pure churchianity. And so, I don't have a problem with large churches. I don't have a problem with churches that have, bookshops or sell T-shirts or whatever. That's fine. They have to pay their bills too. But there's a difference. There's always a difference, and you can sense it. You can tell it. You can see it. And, a churchian church is simply an SJW converged Christian church. It's become no longer capable of serving its Christian function. And so, I think like every, like the Vatican, maybe, I've been skeptical about that with regards, just ever since Vatican II. So, so anyhow, I'm not saying that every individual who attends there is a fake Christian. There's a lot of people that get deceived. We got warned in the Bible that there would be wolves in sheep's clothing. I think when you see someone behaving like Joel Osteen, it's pretty obvious what that individual is. So, but that's the reality of modern life. Fake news, fake ads, fake traffic, fake Christians, fake university degrees, fake right. All this kind of stuff. Everything is fraudulent, everything is fake, everything is a lie. And that's why it's so important to ruthlessly tell the truth. Fake Americans, exactly. It is so important to ruthlessly tell the truth about history, about technology, about social justice, about all this stuff. And that's what the mission of Voxversity is basically to penetrate the fakeness. How to get them out? You got to self-police. You've got to self-police your organizations. You've got to be actively anticipating the infiltrators. If you're not looking for infiltrators, you're not paying attention. The signs of a tech company that is resistant to convergence is a very strong leader, usually who doesn't tolerate much in the way of idiocy. A weak HR department, uncredentialed, important employees. You always know a converged company because they overvalue credentials and undervalue achievement. A high proportion of straight white men in positions, of achievement. If you're at a company where the men are all in development and the women are all in marketing, you're probably okay. When you start getting that mix, that's when things start to go to hell. So, and yes, there are always exceptions, but not anywhere nearly as many as people like to pretend. And the main thing is to be aware that the minute that people start talking about diversity and inclusivity and equality and all that bullshit, that you need to start getting rid of them. I just haven't had time to, I really haven't had time, and I just really haven't had any motivation to do any alpha game posts. I haven't been that interested in doing it. Alpha Game was always supposed to be a group blog, but it didn't work out that way. So, I may get back to it, I may not. Either way, it'll be there. There's still plenty of material there that's useful for people who need it. I don't know how much more new material that needs. So, so it's just one of those things that you do or you don't do, regardless. And so, it's so anyhow, I'm glad that I don't know what ZeroNet is. So anyhow, what I would, so we'll discuss Voxday more in a Darkstream soon when we're about to do it. We will be talking about game in Voxday. We'll have a series directly devoted to that. I think it's very important. I think it is fundamentally important in order to understand how people react, how people behave, and how to successfully anticipate their future behavior. When I identify somebody correctly as a gamma or as an alpha, I can, with a pretty high degree of reliability, predict their behavior in many social situations. It's a very useful heuristic. It's not 100% reliable, but it's certainly a lot better than simply operating off of instinct or just, relying on randomness. So, in any event, have a good evening. Look forward to seeing you on the blog, and we'll see you soon.